Coffee time again, exposing the truth. Welcome to Coffee Time Again, exposing the truth. Dale at the microphone, the show that demonstrates how history repeats itself. He digs into the past, shows what happens, and how it is happening now. Follow the path of history to where it goes, then relate it to today to reveal the connections. The culture that forgets its history has no future. A history buff and loves to talk about it, going back as far as ancient Greeks and Egyptians and beyond. So grab your coffee, your chair, and listen to the show. Hope you enjoy.
See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify, get helpful stats, and all the support you need to sound your very best.
Hello, my name is Dale Hutchison, and I am your host today of Coffee Time Again, Exposing the Truth. And welcome to today's show. We are discussing the United Nations and what's happening with them. I was talking to a friend, and the subject of the United Nations came up. I suggested that the United Nations had an agenda to create one world government. We had a very long conversation. He didn't exactly agree with me too much about this. I believe very strongly that that is not only the UN but the European Union, and to a lesser extent the African Union, want it as well. It is, in my opinion, that is the goal of the UN at some point, to get all the ambassadors from all the members to vote for a one world government. I believe the European Union is involved. It's a very strong plan they have been working on since 1917. It's a long term because of the 1913 election of Woodrow Wilson, a progressive, liberal, Democrat, racist, misogynist, you name it, president, and quite possibly the worst president to date, including one Joe Biden. In addition to 1917, he got the U.S. involved in a war that took the lives of 116,516 brave Americans for nothing. That war was nothing. It's in vain. It was sickening. It's bloody and sickening. The Treaty of Versailles, on which the U.S., along with the other allied nations, signed, was the worst treaty ever created by humankind. It was bad, really bad, and the leading cause of World War II, if you'll study it. Treaty of Versailles. President Wilson pushed the Allies to create a worldwide organization called the League of Nations. It was a complete, total, and utter failure. Therefore, when World War II ended, the Allies wanted something to replace the League of Nations. President Wilson was totally unable to get the U.S. to sign the League of Nations Treaty, as they called it. It was the Treaty of Versailles, too. Because he was not able to get the treaty signed, it was unable to get anything done. With the creation of the United Nations, it was finally dissolved on April 20th, 1946. In addition, it was his attempt to get the treaty signed that led to his stroke near the end of his second term. And it would behoove you to take a look at what his wife Edith was doing while he was incapacitated with a stroke while President of the United States. Hint, hint. As I see things, the UN wants one world government with them in charge. Along with the EU, the plan is simple. Squeeze all the free nations out of committees and change the rules for the Security Council so that the 5 countries with veto power in the Security Council are restricted and others gain a veto right. That's been in the works for years. I mean, they've talked about it since the 60s. I can remember doing that. Already there are committees packed with countries that are hostile towards the United States, like the Human Rights Council. The idea is to pack the Security Council and strategic committees with the hostile countries to force the UN General Assembly in favor of forming a new agency within the UN to study the idea of creating one world government. This is a very long-term plan and is already 100 plus years in the making, as I said. The UN is not going to lose its chance and rush things. I do not believe I will live to see it. However, I strongly believe it will happen without a major war, aka World War III, though that could be one of their options on the table. I wouldn't put it past them. I can find lots on the internet in support of my position. It would be to the UN's advantage not to advertise their agenda about world domination, but they're not too good a job at keeping secrets, now are they? As I've said, the EU is involved, plus I believe they're attempting to take over the African Union, so we'll be able to use them against us. I know that corruption at the highest levels of the UN, from the Secretary General to the lowest paid janitor, is at an all-time high. This is from a report. This has been there has been report after report to prove my point. Here's one that I found at www.thetrumpet.com/1853 sorry about that, 1853 the corruption of the United Nations, published October 20th, 2005. So of course it's old news. And I'm bringing it back because I know it's been pushed to the back burner again. The full report needs to be read by everyone. It is too long to read here. However, here are the first couple paragraphs. That's all it is. First couple paragraphs tells you a lot. Rape, murder, billions of dollars in fraud and embezzlement on a global scale. The United Nations, formed to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, has instead become more like a movie that is too graphic to show your children. In the last year, the reputation of the United Nations has been shredded by allegations of kickbacks, billions of dollars in the graft for oil food scandal, rape of minors in this Congo sex scandal, which has been more than just in the Congo. Recently, it's happened year after year after year after year with the UN security forces. And a total lack of accountability. The United Nations officials know it's time for serious reform. The independent report of the oil for food scandal, produced by a committee led by former U.S. Federal Reserve Bank Chairman Paul Volcker, was finally released in September, criticizing the UN from top to bottom. The language of the report was crystal clear. The inconceivable conclusion from the committee's work is that the UN needs thorough reform and needs it urgently. We will see exactly how serious the lapses in judgment were at every level, if you read the whole document, and I believe you should. But with as noble as if the goal as noble as saving our children from war, how do things go so terribly askew? What is wrong with the United Nations? End quote. People, you think? People who are involved in a way without being monitored by anyone except themselves. Nobody can investigate the UN without permission from the UN. That's a recipe for corruption in any organization in the world. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, duh. The news of sexual abuse by UN peacekeeping forces is so disgusting and sickening. Without some way to enforce their laws, that is what we will get with the members of the U.S. peacekeeping forces of the United Nations. And by the way, there are Americans in the peacekeeping force. We're not innocent in this. There are Americans in the U.S. Whether or not they're involved in the scandals or not, I don't know. But we do have American soldiers. The U.S. has paid its share more of the money to keep the UN existing and running over the past decades, and we are shouted and voted down every time we attempt to get the other nations to pay their share. We gave them the land for the UN headquarters. Now we have no way to force other nations to pay up. There are 193 members of the UN. Member nations can be found here at www.thatcode.com/members-united-nations-1435442. Here again are the recipe of just the first couple paragraphs. That's all there is. By Matt Rosenberg, updated September 25th, 2019. There are currently 193 member countries of the United Nations, one of the world's 196 countries. There remain only two member states, the Holy See, or the Vatican City, and Palestine. These nations are assigned the status of permanent observers to the UN proceedings for political and religious reasons. That only leaves one country not accounted for. Anybody have a guess what that country is going to be? Go ahead, take a guess. I'll give you time. Okay, time's up. Taiwan, did you get it right? Let's hope you did. You need to be aware of these things. Taiwan's UN membership status is complicated. Not really. The country meets the criteria of a foreign state almost completely, but is still not officially recognized as an independent by most UN member countries. Therefore, Taiwan is both a non-member and a non-country in the eyes of the UN. Side note, what happens when China attacks Taiwan? Who's going to defend them? Because the United Nations ain't. They don't exist in the eyes of the United Nations. Continuing on. Taiwan was a member of the United Nations from October 24, 1945 to October 25, 1971. Since then, China has replaced Taiwan on the UN, even on the Security Council. End quote. So we kicked out Taiwan and put in Communist China. How does that sound to you? To me, it sounds absolutely wrong and horrifying. And I remember when the change was made, the U.S. population was very angry about it. However, there's nothing we could do as we were outvoted. We were outvoted on almost everything we attempt to do within the Security Council and the General Assembly on every topic. Our president is ignored every time he visits if the president is not a progressive liberal. And who's not a progressive liberal president in the last few cycles? The main reason we have been shut down at the UN is the U.S. is seen as evil and doesn't think like the rest of the country. Well, of course we don't think like the rest of the world thinks. Thank God for that, and I'm happy. It makes me happy to hear that. We are a God-fearing conservative nation, even with the liberal progressive socialists in charge think otherwise. We conservatives need to stand up and be counted at the ballot box every election. That way, when we're back in charge, and save our country from a world dominated by the communists of the world in charge of the UN in their attempt to take over with one world, one government, which was a catchphrase back in the 70s, I remember. I even bought into it for a while, then I got to thinking about it. No, that won't work. Now I think even less of the idea of one world, one government. There may even be an American somewhere in the works to help the UN in its goal of taking over the world. The ambassador to the UN now is a liberal, of course, with a long list of liberal accomplishments to her credit. Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield was nominated by President Joseph R. Biden to be the representative of the United States of America in the United Nations, as well as representative of the United States of America in the Security Council of the United Nations on January 20th, 2021. She was confirmed by the U.S. Senate on January 23rd, 2021. It was sworn in on February 24th, 2021 by the Vice President of the United States. We won't even talk about Cameron. So we see there is an American connection to the leftist at the UN today. Now we wait and see what she does. We've already been seeing what she does. She does not stand up for America or for... Does she stand up for America or for the Socialist Party that put her in her position? My money is she would not stand up for American rights. She will support the legislative agenda of President Biden and his handlers. I don't see what we can do to stop the corruption of the UN until we get control of our own country. Once we have a solid majority in both houses of Congress, Supreme Court, and a real conservative in the White House, and that's going to take a long time to get all that together in one fell swoop. Even then, it's going to be a long, hard role for the U.S. to play. The rod, as I said, goes deep and is long-standing. I do conceive one solution, and it is just to pull out of the UN and kick them out of the U.S., though that poses a bigger problem than it solves. Not being a member will open wide for the powers that be in the UN to run riot on their agenda of world domination. Without what little power we have at the UN, we would be at the mercy of the communists. So what can we do other than run our country and fight like hell to change the UN back to what it was started to do? That's what we need to do. Now we're going to talk about something a little different here, but it's still the UN. Have you ever heard of Agenda 21? If you haven't, I suggest you look it up on Wikipedia or the internet anyway. There's all kinds of stuff out there. I found tons of stuff on Agenda 21. But do your own research. I discovered it all. And listen to the few excerpts that I have from Wikipedia. I discovered Agenda 21 while reading a book of fiction from Glenn Beck. Yes, that Glenn Beck. The book is a work of fiction, as I said, and it's really a good book. They're both of them. There's two of them, and they're really great reads. They can stand alone. They're just really, really good. One is Agenda 21. The second is Agenda 21 Into the Shadows. Both are great reads. However, it scared me. So I had to look it up on Google just to see what it's all about. And these quotes are found at https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/agenda_21. Agenda 21 is a non-binding action plan of the United Nations with regard to sustainable development. It is a product of the Earth Summit, UN Conference on Environmental and Development, held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992. It is an action agenda for the UN and other multilateral organizations and individual governments around the world that can be executed at local, national, and global levels. One major objective of Agenda 21 initiative is to get every local government should draw up its own Agenda 21 with its aim initially was to achieve global sustainable development by 2000. with 21 in the Agenda 21 referring to this original target date of the 21st century. Kind of blew it right there, you think? The implementation of Agenda 21 is intended to involve action at an international, national, regional, and local levels. Some local and state governments have legislated or advised that local authorities take steps to implement the local plan locally, as recommended in Chapter 28 of the document. So we know at least 28 chapters of the recommendation that we do this locally. These programs are often known as a Local Agenda 21 or LA21. For example, in the Philippines, the plan is the Philippines Agenda 21 or PA21. The group ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, formed in 1990. Today, its members come from over 1,000 cities, towns, and counties in 88 countries, and is widely regarded as a paragon of Agenda 21 implementation. The United States is a signatory country to Agenda 21, but because Agenda 21 is a legally non-binding statement of intent, not a treaty, the United States Senate did not hold formal debate nor vote on it, so therefore is not considered to be a law under Article 6 of the United States Constitution. So don't let them tell you it's the law. It's not even close. President George H.W. Bush was one of the 178 heads of government who signed the final text of the agreement at the Earth Summit in 1992. In the same year, our friends Representative Nancy Pelosi, Bill Engel, and William Bloomfield spoke in support of the United Nations House of Representatives concurrent resolution 5353 supporting implementation of Agenda 21 in the United States. Created by Executive Order 12852 in 1993, Agenda 21, the President's Council on Sustainable Development, PCSD, was implicitly charged with recommending a national plan of action for sustainable development of the development to the President. The PCSD is composed of leaders from government, industry, as well as environmental, labor, and civil rights organizations. The PCSD submitted its report, Sustainable America, a New Consensus, to the President in early 1996. In the absence of multi-sectorial consensus on how to achieve sustainable development in the United States, the PSCD was conceived to formulate recommendations for the implementation of Agenda 21. Executive Order 12852 was revoked by Executive Order 13138 in 1999. PCSD has set 10 common goals in support of Agenda 21 movement. 1. Health and environment. 2. Economic prosperity. 3. Equity. Equity. Conservation of nature. Stewardship. Sustainable communities. Civic engagement. Population. International responsibility. 10. Education. In the United States, there are over 520 cities are members of the ICLEI, an international sustainability organization which helps the implementation of Agenda 21 and local Agenda 21 concepts across the world. The United States has nearly half of the ICLEI's global membership of 1,200 cities promoting sustainable development at a local level. The United States also has one of the most comprehensively documented 21 agenda with status reports in response to the opposition, and yeah, there's a lot of opposition. Don Knapp, a U.S. spokesman for the ICLEI, has said sustainable development is not a top-down conspiracy from the UN. Yeah, read Chapter 28, by the bottom-up push from local governments. Yeah, read Chapter 28 again. Now get ready for the next new thing. It's the Great Reset. Or it's not so new. whttps://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/great_reset. The Great Reset is an economic recovery plan drawn up by the World Economic Forum in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The project was launched on June of 2020 with a video featuring then Prince of Wales King Charles now released to mark its launch. The initiative's stated aim is to facilitate rebuilding of the global COVID-19 crisis in such a way it prioritizes sustainable development. WEF Chief Officer Klaus Schwab described 3 core components of the Great Reset: creating conditions for a stakeholder economy in opposed to capitalism, building a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable way, utilizing environmental, social, and governance ESG metrics, and harnessing the innovations of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I didn't know that before. In her speech opening the dialogues, International Monetary Fund Director Kristalina Georgievna stated 3 key aspects of sustainable response to COVID-19: green growth, smarter growth, fairer growth. End quote. That's enough, don't you think? But there's more. While not through the UN program, they are involved in it. This is as dangerous as Agenda 21 and may be replacing it because there's been so much blowback on Agenda 21. And if you want to read more about the Great Reset, there are 2 books out there. One I've read, so I recommend it. The other one I haven't read, so I'm not going to recommend it. I'm just going to tell you about it. It's by the one I don't recommend it. It's by Alex Jones. It's called The Great Reset. The one I have read and do recommend is Glenn Beck's version of the same book of the same title, The Great Reset. So I read the first one. I have not read Alex Jones's book. I probably won't either. And the last thing, well, not quite. Agenda 2030 from the Davos meeting 2023 is an updated Agenda 21. Not much new news to talk about here. Just an updated version, just updating a few minor points here and there as near as I can tell. Oh, there's a lot out there on the Google if you care to look it up, and I hope you do. It's very important that we be informed about these things. It's getting dangerous to be an American today, or even America. Just to be America is dangerous. Just our country's in danger. Now that I've had my say, it is your turn to do your homework and decide for yourself if what I say has any validity to it whatsoever. Please do your own homework, as Glenn Beck is. He's pushing people to do that, and I do too, because it's important that you don't take just my word for it. Please, thank you, and God bless you all for joining me, and have a magnificent world.